I was also still working at another job all at this time. I worked for 23 years with an extra job, and most of the first years at Delmo Supply, I kept that other job, and that paid for all of our eating and our home expenses and that type of thing. I even started buying sweepings from some wholesalers, and I would sit and sort those sweepings out. My ex-wife was very unhappy, Kevin, because I always had fasteners in the living room and the dining room. Never had a place to eat. I had fasteners strewn all over my home. A lot of the people here came to my beach home quite a few years ago when we had a little party, and I used to sit out in the patio and watch the young girls in their bikinis skate by and try to sort nuts and bolts into the right boxes. I had a hard time because I didn't like the way the old manufacturers, when they said they had a gross pack, they usually had 146 or 148 in the boxes, and this was before we had some of these over-under scales, and I counted all of them individually to get that extra 3 bolts or nuts out of a box and start to do some gaining, because I would count how many boxes I had. Even if I got from a company one piece of a, say, crazy eye bolt, you know, with a shoulder, you know, out of brass, I put it in the box and tagged it and put it in the shelf. My store everything ran in exact order, right down, and boy, if I ever found a box out of order, I had an absolute fit. I never scrapped anything, because it was always my dream that if I had the most items, I'd be the most diversified, jobber in California. But I think maybe Steve Askew and Browning at Allied both might have had more items than me. They really have a lot of great boxes on their shelves. I really hated part of the business I hated the most was when my employees forced me to buy a computer. I hated it, and I still do. I don't know why. I know it's a necessary tool for the industry. Neil Hatfield loves me because I paid cash for my computer from him. But I just couldn't get adapted to it, although I did finally learn how to use it. As time went on, I had a customer call me and say that they had received 4 kegs of bolts from me, and when they opened up the kegs, there was a little metal tag sitting in each one of the cardboard boxes that said 425 or 450 1-inch 8 heavy hex nuts made in Japan. I had certified those nuts to be domestic. I called Stan Screw, and at that time, and they tried to lie themselves out of it some way, and I guess their employee had repackaged them for Mr. Melvin and put that tag back in so the people would know how many nuts were in that cage or something. Well, anyway, they never got another order from me. Also, another guy that never got an order from me was Gene Wolfram, because after he had sold me those 5-inch nuts, 2 months later he went and called my customer and tried to sell them direct. I guess it was in 1975 or 1976 that I gave my resignation to the NFDA, one of the other organizations like this, and I got mad at them because I got mad at the manufacturers, not the members of the organization, for selling direct. I felt that direct selling was not the thing to be done in our industry, and I still believe that very, very strongly. We're paying the city taxes. We're paying for our vehicles to be in the towns that we're in many cases. And why should somebody even as big as Bethlehem Steel come into my area at that time and sell direct? So I made a little speech at the distributors. Larry Stanley remembers this. He's laughing out there, and I resigned. And that's the last speech I've made, so I'm kind of rusty. I'm sorry. I can't keep your attention. And I still feel that a lot of people here should feel that way. It's the same thing, you know, when you're dealing with a super jobber, and they come in and they sell some hardware store down the street, which is still happening, I know. And I think that's the jobber's business. And I think as jobbers, I was trying to get jobbers to feel a little bit stronger in selling. You know, one order is not going to take and make a company. Ken Ball said earlier yesterday to me, so when he was at Republic Steel, they used to give the bolts to the people that bought large steel orders from them. And that's very possible. They could have been doing something like that at that time. But I still feel to this day that it's the jobber's business to service the customer. And I got around this really, really well. Because when the customer that had bought direct from somebody like Bethlehem Steel, who was selling at that time direct, and they called me the next time for 20 nuts and bolts. I said, oh, go get them at Bethlehem. This is where you should get all your nuts and bolts. So I broke these people pretty well going to try to buy direct. In fact, I think Bob Lehman was selling a couple people in San Diego when I became one of his first big customers down there direct. And he came to me and said, Mel, if you stock it, it's your customer. And that's the way it should be. And this is, I think I was one of Bob's very, very first customers when he was with Bell Fastener. I told my customers, I said, hey, you know, if you feel you're doing so much better buying direct, I said, I'll sell you at 2 or 3% profit. And someone said, okay, you know, send me 20 kegs of this or 20 kegs of that. So I really tried to work with him. Well, anyway, I finally ended up in the hospital with a bad back, and they had to operate. And I still, at this time, I was doing a pretty damn good volume of business, but I only had one employee and my wife, and they operated on me in the morning, and that afternoon, she brought me up all the invoices to price. And so anyway, this is about how I was going, and oh, God. I got out of the hospital, was able to return back to work, and I found a new forklift sitting at work with a new pickup truck. I was in the hospital, she went out and bought my first pickup and my first forklift. Anyway, time went on, and I really built up a relationship with a company called Southern Bowl. I got an order for an 1 3/4 Linnell lock nut. And my dear supplier, Esma, just couldn't make this thing in 3 days. So I went to LA and I sat down with Doug that same day, and we produced 64 of these, infringing on Esma's or Weir's patent, whoever holds a patent on it. We made them, I delivered them, and the Navy was very, very happy with me. This closeness that I built up with Doug Crack led me to finally purchase 50% of Nevada Nut and Bolt, which Doug owned. I was now partners with a fellow by the name of Richard Lassiter in Las Vegas, and I was a fairly large gambler, so Las Vegas fit right into the picture for my expense-paid trips that cost me probably $5,000 a trip. Nevada Nut and Bolt grew, and Richard and I became very close. I went on, and I also obtained 50% interest in Fresno Nut and Bolt. I also had Centennial Nut and Bolt. What else did I have? Sunbelt Supply, MX Fastener. I had a Centennial Bolt, Manila, Utah, where I had the only helicopter pad at a fastener company. They came in with their helicopters to buy fasteners for the oil field there. We were out in the middle of nowhere, and I also owned a company called Action Valve and Fitting in San Diego, which was a very, very nice fitting, pipe fitting company. Well, Richard Lassiter had worked for Southern Bolt, Harper, South Bay Bolt, Percy Messman, I forgot Percy's company, Majestic, I guess, and I really saw quality in Richard where it is better adapted for the manufacturing business than for the fastener business. And I got a call one day from our dear government, and they needed some bolts, and I called every hot header from in Arizona, Texas, and California. No one could make them fast enough. Perturbed me, and I was rolling in cash, and I called Richard, and I said, Richard, and I said, let's start a hot forming company.